I'm recreating famous crashes from American-based airlines and Lego to retell the stories of the tragic events that's happened in this country. Our first recreation is from America's biggest cargo airline. On July 31st, 1997, FedEx Flight 14 was on approach to Newark International Airport, located in Newark, New Jersey. The flight originated from Singapore with 2 stopovers in Malaysia and Alaska. The plane was a McDonnell Douglas MD-11 with 5 people on board, including 3 passengers. The flight itself was fairly normal until it became time for the final approach. The pilots were worried that they wouldn't have enough runway to avoid overrunning, so they decided to touch down earlier than usual. As the plane touched down, it bounced. When it touched down again, the right landing gear collapsed, causing the plane to roll over and skid down the runway. The plane came to a stop while being upside down and also on fire. The MD-11 itself was a whole loss, but luckily all 5 occupants of the MD-11 survived. But this wouldn't be the last time the FedEx MD-11 would roll over while landing. This next crash is from an airline that no longer exists. Pan Am was considered America's flagship carrier before they ceased operations in 1991. On July 9th, 1982, Pan Am Flight 759 was loading at New Orleans International Airport bound for San Diego with a stopover in Las Vegas. The Boeing 727-200 had a total of 145 occupants. Earlier that morning, the weather forecast called for a thunderstorm warning with potential severe winds, which would be the main cause for the fatal crash. The plane then began taxiing towards runway 10. As the plane took off, it climbed to an altitude of 150 feet, which is where the problems began. The plane encountered a phenomenon known as microbursts, which is an intense column of sinking air, aka downdraft. The microbursts act like an invisible hand, causing the plane to rapidly descend. The plane descended towards a nearby neighborhood, and with no way to ascend, the plane slammed into a house and damaged many others. Sadly, all occupants passed away, including 8 people on the ground, being one of the most deadly 727 crashes. Our next recreation is with America's top airline. Delta Flight 191 was getting ready to take off from Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport to Las Vegas with a stop in Dallas on August 12, 1985. The aircraft was a 6-year-old L-1011 TriStar, which was one of the most advanced airplanes at the time. The TriStar flew over Florida and the Gulf of Mexico. While the flight was uneventful, the forecast called for isolated thunderstorms over northern Texas, which we will soon see why it would be the reason of the crash. Now let's look at the map. The flight flew over the Gulf of Mexico, past New Orleans and approaching DFW. And speaking of Dallas, I actually went to Dallas-Fort Worth Airport at their famous Founders Plaza, exactly 2 miles from Delta 191's crash site, which I feel like would be the perfect way to honor the victims by recreating the final approach here. Delta 191 was approaching runway 17, but just like Pan Am 759, the plane encountered a microburst, causing the plane to rapidly descend until they hit the ground, rolling at high speeds and striking a car on highways 114 until they hit a water tank and crashed. A total of 137 people died, including a person in the car they struck, but 27 people survived, and this won't be the last time this channel is at DFW. The following recreation is from an airline even bigger than Delta. United is one of the biggest airlines in the world, yet Flight 585 isn't that well known. Anyway, on March 3rd, 1991, United Flight 585 was headed to Colorado Springs, Colorado. The flight originated from Peoria, Illinois, with stopovers in Quad City and the now-closed Stapleton International Airport in Denver. The aircraft was a Boeing 737-200, which had 20 passengers and 5 crew members, with all of them not knowing it'd be their last flight. The United flight took off from Stapleton's airport at 9:23 m.m. Just like all the flights the plane took before, most of it was just an ordinary one. The only thing that was noticeable was there was light turbulence. The flight cruised over the mountains of Colorado, giving the passengers a great view of them. The airplane began its final approach as the air traffic controller cleared Flight 585 for landing. As the aircraft approached the runway, the turbulence became stronger, which is where everything went wrong. Due to the design flaw, the rudder would make an uncontrollable movement, causing it to shift and making the 737 roll and nosedive. Everyone was killed on impact, as even some components were buried deep in the ground. Before the rudder hardover was discovered, 585 became one of the most mysterious crashes. Now it's time for the final recreation of the video, with basically the flagship carrier of America. That's right, the one and only American Airlines. On January 29, 2025, American Airlines Flight 5342 was getting ready to take off from Wichita, Kansas and land at Washington Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. The flight was operated on a CRJ-700. A total of 60 passengers and 4 crew members were on board the 3-hour flight. The aircraft began its pushback and started taxiing towards the runway. On board the flight were 11 U.S. figure skating athletes, as well as 13 parents and 4 coaches. The CRJ-700 then took off and started its journey to Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, at Davison's Army Airfield in Virginia, another flight was beginning to take off. Priority Air Transport, aka PAT 25, was on an annual flight check with 3 crew members, all of them wearing night vision goggles. The aircraft is a Silkstery UH-60L Blackhawk. The helicopter was then cleared for takeoff and flew to the skies. As the UL-60 Blackhawk soared to the skies, it left Virginia and entered into Washington, D.C. While there were plans to return to Virginia, it would never come back. Meanwhile, Flight 5342 arrived into Washington, D.C. airspace. The American flight then had contact with runway 1, but then ATC asked that they could switch to runway 33. The crew of the CRJ agreed to switch runways, and they were cleared to land at the airport. The aircraft then flew past the Potomac River, a major U.S. river about 405 miles long, which the airplane will soon crash in. Meanwhile, at DCA Airport, the air traffic controller then warned PAT 25 of a CRJ up ahead. ATC asked PAT 25 if they had visual contact on the CRJ. PAT 25 replied saying they did. ATC told them to pass the CRJ-700. However, the last message wasn't heard from the Blackhawk crew. Meanwhile, the CRJ-700 had visual approach on the runway, but with no TCAS warnings below 400 feet, they didn't realize we're on a collision route. The UL-60 slammed into the CRJ, causing the front section to detach and the back to fall out of the sky. Both sections were headed straight for the Potomac River. All 64 passengers and crew perished in the cold waters of the Potomac. And as for PAT 25, the 3 crew members also died. Of course, this video is dedicated to all of the lives lost or affected by these crashes. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to help me do more of these projects in the future. Thanks.